Typically when I start filming a video, I have some semblance of a plan. I don't fully know what the end result will be, but I kind of can at least pretend that I know what path it's gonna take. Today I've got almost nothing. I've got almost nothing. Great way to say, hey, please watch this video, it'll be fun. Embroidery goes pretty far back for me at this point. Every time I start talking, you start nibbling on your butt. Embroidery goes pretty far back for me at this point. It was the first like fiber or textile art that I really dove into. I have made samplers and tutorials. I've learned literally hundreds of stitches at this point, and there's always new stuff for me to learn, which is why I do explorations of new to me embroidery styles on here now and then. I mean, I've got a list. You've seen the list. But despite there being so much that I don't know about it yet, embroidery doesn't really surprise me anymore. Or at least that's what I thought, until one day I was doom scrolling reels on Instagram as one does, probably on the toilet, and I came across this one. Did you catch what just happened? Are you similarly aghast? This reel is by Chelsea Textiles, a company in London that recreates antique textiles. So this is a professional embroiderer. I've seen that before. I've observed their setups and techniques and work. They typically sit on the floor with these really big, long frames. And quite often when you see professionals doing embroidery, it's timbre embroidery, which is a whole other thing and not what he's doing, at least in the beginning of this video. You may first have noticed that he was stitching double-handed, a technique I infrequently try to train myself in, but my left hand hates it. This means rather than moving your dominant hand over and then under the work to control the needle, back and forth in a way that does slow you down, you keep the dominant hand on top and use your undominant hand, your other hand, underneath to pass the needle back and forth between. Much faster if you're good at it. If you're not good at it, it's just kind of a mess, like trying to write your name with your non-dominant hand. But also, he's doing French knots. For those not familiar, here's what it looks like when I, an average stitcher, sew a French knot. My hand pushes the needle up through the fabric, comes around the top to finish pulling it through. Then I hold the needle horizontally-ish, use my other hand to wrap the floss around the needle, stab the needle back into the fabric, pull the floss tight, and carry my dominant hand back under the fabric to pull the needle through while my left hand continues to put tension on the floss. Ta-da! It not only involved my dominant hand going back and forth around the frame, it also required the use of my other hand. And of course, having now done very, very many French knots in my life, I can do them much faster than that. But they are one of the slower stitches to do just because of all the steps in that process. Also, that is a beautiful French knot, if I may toot my own horn. How fast can I do a French knot? Go. Done. Faster than that. Go. Ah! Well, that one failed. No, don't knot incorrectly. Go. No, go. Okay, cool. That is not how he did the French knot. His left hand stayed under the frame. He did some sort of wiggle with the floss, a flick with the needle, and then like wabam, there was a French knot, single-handed. When I tell you my mind was blown, it reminds me of how much of an embroidery nerd I am. But I've literally never seen this done before, ever. I did not know it was possible. I have never heard it described or seen it written about, and like, I want to do it. I want to figure it out and hopefully master the technique, because that random reel coming across my screen basically might as well have been that guy slapping me with his gauntlet. I have been challenged by myself. I must do it. And then I figured I gotta make a video about it, because if I've never seen this, safe to assume a lot of other people probably haven't seen it. And if you're like, what even is a French knot? You know what? I can't promise this video will be super entertaining to you, but stick with me anyway, and it might be lightly amusing to watch me struggle. I have no concept of how difficult this will be to learn. I don't want to research single-handed French knots. I want to look at nothing else except the original reel, because I'm a glutton for punishment, and sometimes I learn things best when I learn them on my own. Not every time, but I think it'll work here. However, Instagram had other plans, and it showed me another reel of another professional embroiderer doing a single-handed French knot, this time from Desjournés? It can't be Desjournés. Another company that creates beautiful things that make me sigh with joy at the great creative skills human beings have amassed. So I do have a second angle on the process, but I'm still not looking it up. I know the machinations of a French knot. I should be able to figure this out on my own. But how long will it take? How will this be a video? No clue. We're just gonna see where this takes us. But first, I'm gonna take you to another room. Come with me, take my hand, I have something to tell you. This video is sponsored by Factor. When I get super focused on an idea, a project, a random side thought that absolutely must be solved now, it can be really hard to make myself stop in the middle to go prepare a decent meal. So I'll often end up snacking, or eating way later than I meant to, or skipping the meal altogether. As I tried to build healthier, more consistent habits, Factor has been super helpful. Their meals are fresh, never frozen, delicious, balanced, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so I can convince my brain to pause for lunch, because it'll be so quick and easy. This also means I can cut down on groceries going uneaten, and focus on planning out a few home-cooked meals each week instead of being overwhelmed by all 14 of them swarming me in a mass. If life is busy, schedules are ever changing, and getting to the grocery store or even just into the kitchen to cook is a constant struggle, supplementing your weekly meals with Factor is just so stress-free. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code STITCHERY50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code STITCHERY50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now let's go figure out some French knots, shall we? Step 1. How is it done? In both videos, I observed that they're using a pretty thick floss. In the first one, it looks like just maybe a regular 6-strand cotton or possibly silk embroidery floss. But in the second one, it looks like he's using raffia, is that how you say it? Or straw silk, which is something I only recently learned about in the embroidery world, and ooh, there's a video coming soon. Let's not get into that. I'm gonna stick with just all 6 strands of regular cotton 6-strand embroidery floss for now. You'll also observe that they're both working with rather long pieces of embroidery floss. They have a lot of slack. Possibly they were just being filmed doing their very first knot of the day, but it's more likely to me, based on my current knowledge of French knots, that the long piece of embroidery floss is kind of necessary, or at least helpful. So if I again break down an actual French knot, or a regular French knot, the thread is going over. Generally at least 2 times, but you can do a French knot with just a single wrap. Oh, it doesn't help that you're very bendy. You can't wrap it the other way, can you? Or can you? You can, huh. Okay, so I was always taught to wrap for a French knot going away from you over the needle. So needle is held horizontally, you wrap from the side closest to you over the needle and around. But I just did one wrapping in the other direction, so needle is held horizontally, wrapping towards you and around, and it basically gave me the exact same thing. Like, I can't think of a reason why this is not just as good of a French knot. I guess you could say they look ever so slightly different. Is that related to doing it with one hand? Not really. Anyway, back to the normal way, you're going over like this. Oh my god, I need floss that's not bent. When you wrap it on the little cards like this, I don't like this. I'm actually trying to use it up. That's why I'm using all of these for my freehand sashiko piece, because I do not like thread on these little cards because it ends up with little bins like this, which like once you've done the stitches obviously goes away because you're pulling them tight, but like when you're sewing, can be really annoying. Random side rant over. If I were doing a single wrap, it would literally just be tucking the needle under like that. Hand up, but now I'm just tying a knot in the middle of the floss. So then you have to go back in. You can see in the second one really clearly that rather than tightening the knot around the needle as you would normally do, he's tightening it just up against the fabric, like the needle's already gone through. So he's essentially just sliding the knot down the floss itself until it reaches the fabric. But by pushing on what, or pulling on what, I mean. There's my knot. I need to keep pulling on what, on this? No, because if I pull on that, I will just tighten the knot. So I almost need to pull on this? How do you do that one-handed? Oh yeah, okay. This is what I think you did. You pull on this. By doing that, I've now moved my knot down to the fabric, and now when I pull the floss through, oh, well, I've also just tightened my knot. That's not as helpful as I wanted it to be. Dang it! That was kind of right in theory. I don't think I'm pulling on the right thing though. And that's definitely like what he did, was that. Oh, okay, you just can't pull it that tight. There we go. Now, shonk! I definitely just used both of my hands though, so I don't know how much of a success that was. Let's try to use one hand. You need to lay, oh God, this floss is not gonna work. All right, I'll change floss in a second. But you need your floss to be in a loop like that. Oh my God. I asked you to stay in a loop. Your floss is in a loop like this. This hand is invisible. Pretend I'm not using this hand. You're just sliding your needle underneath it. You can pull through with one hand still. Cool. Now you go back down. Ignore that so far. You don't even need to touch that yet. Go back down. Your other hand is underneath the fabric, so your other hand pulls the needle through while you grab this. Tighten, pull. Is that it? Ooh, okay, you should have no bends in you. This is cotton pearl floss, not 6-strand, but I don't think that'll make a difference. Let's do double-handed in theory. Part of this is the problem that there is still a double-handed aspect to it. I'm calling it a single-handed fringe knot because the knot here on top is being done with one hand. But to do a single-handed fringe knot, you have to be stitching double-handed. And y'all, my left hand does not like to do stuff. So we come up. Cool. We do this loop. We tuck through. You don't want to go back down in this loop. You have to be on the other side of the floss. But before we do anything, we can just immediately go back down. The left hand grabs the needle. The right hand grabs, I'm pretty sure this is the right loop, the loop, pull through. Nope, don't already knot up. Uh-oh, did I grab the wrong loop? No, I think I just tightened up in the wrong way. Am I just pulling on the wrong one? Wait, yeah, it's supposed to be that one. Okay, I did it! That was it. That was just it done very poorly. But that, in theory, is how it's done with a single wrap. The question becomes, can you do it with multiple wraps? But before I get into that question, I'm gonna do this again like 50 times until I can at least do it kind of smoothly. I'm not aiming for speedy, speedy fast, just smooth. Which one? Oh, frick yeah, I grabbed the right one. That one's not as good. Oh my God, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be. Don't do that. Nope. No, why is your left hand up there? Stay down below deck, sir. It wants to help. Nope, that was bad. Nope, I pulled it too tight. Alright, saved it. I feel like that was pretty smooth. Okay, y'all, initial takeaway. That wasn't that hard. It's been like 20 minutes since I started exploring this. But before I try to do more than one wrap, the first thing that came to my mind while I was stitching this is actually doing... Words just left me. It's cool to do it double-handed with keeping your left hand under, but the reason that French knots often slow you down when you're doing an embroidery piece, like a normal one in a hoop, is because you're holding the hoop with your other hand. You can use a stand, but like, I never used a stand. I would just be like sitting on the couch embroidering. You hold the hoop in one hand, you stitch back and forth with the other. It actually makes single-handed stitching really, really fast because you're kind of moving the hoop with you and all that stuff. Anyway, doing it double-handed, where the knot is single-handed, but the stitching is still double-handed, is great and all, but really the most beneficial thing would be if you could do the knot fully single-handed. So you could be holding the frame in your non-dominant hand and still stitching. That was always the annoying thing with French knots. When I was doing a piece with a bunch of them on there, you'd have to find a way to like balance the hoop or set it down every single time that you were tying the actual knot, and it just drastically slowed it down. You kind of do need to be sewing in a stand of some kind if you're gonna be doing a butt crap load of French knots, unless you can literally do them single-handed. So that's what we're gonna try now. I'm gonna leave it in the frame at first, but theoretically, this hand is holding my hoop. Up to here, we're good. Now the needle goes back in, and here's where my other hand would normally pull it through. So if I don't do that, I would have to do, that looks like a mess. That's the loop I would normally want to be holding on to. What happens if I just keep pulling? Okay, so you kind of have to get almost all the way tight, you know, not too much left. Then you can either hold the needle sort of and not your main fingers, or I guess you could even just stab the needle every time. And then you have to come tighten up your knot, then go back to the needle and finish pulling it through. Yeah, see, that's the loop I need to be holding, and it's already gotten really small. Oh, that's a mess. One more time and then we'll hold it. That one was pretty good. This is gonna be hard to film though. I move around a lot when I'm just holding a hoop. We come up, we make the loop, we go through, we go back into the fabric, we go down, we put the needle down, we tighten the loop, we finish the pull. That was about as good as I can see it going, and I'm not sure that that's actually faster. But in all fairness, if that's not the option, then doing a French knot while holding a hoop in my hand looks like this. Like I had to put it down in my lap in order to do the wrapping, but I think that was still faster. All right, so my takeaway there is that it is possible to legit fully do it single-handed. And if your second hand really had to be holding that hoop or was just fully incapacitated or something, it's possible. But that was such a slow but it's not necessarily faster. I think the real benefit of this technique is going to be stitching in a frame. So my next question is, how do you get multiple wraps? And maybe you don't. Come over here. So the first wrap is like that. Logically, the second wrap would just be tucking it again, right? But now what part do I grab? That part. First try! We make the loop, we go through once, tuck it and through again. Okay, see, here's the thing. It's the tucking it and through again. Because on that second time, the thread wants to like jump around and move away from me. Oh, sorry, let me give you a close-up. Make the loop, go through the loop, go through the loop a second time. That's the hard one. Yeah, see, the thread is like, no thank you. There's gotta be a faster way, or like a more definite way. Go through the loop and through the loop. There we go. And pull. Grab your thread. And pull. Can I do it without making a loop at all? I'd be going like that. Y'all. Y'all know. I was like, oh, I figured out an even faster way. And then, yeah, nope, there's no knot. It's just a little stitch. Let's try that again. So that didn't make a knot at all. What if I loop this way? So I looped it all the way around and then came through. So now when you go to do your second through, you're going through this little piece right here, which is already kind of stabilized because it's over the needle. So tuck again. It's also just really close to the fabric. So like you have more tension on it and it's way easier to tuck your needle around it the second time. Then going back down in the fabric, I'm just making sure to go on the outside of this loop, I think. This is all still theoretical. I've only done it once. Watch it just be completely wrong this time. Yeah, nope, that worked. Okay, now I'm rethinking everything. Okay, so far we have learned. Here's your needle. If you make the loop in this direction, it does work, but it's harder to find the loop, and doing more than one wrap is really difficult. If you make the loop in this direction, then when you put your needle back in, the loop that you need to be grabbing to tighten is right there and easy to find. Also, it's easier to do multiple wraps, although I kind of went back to single, so we need to try that again. What I haven't quite figured out is if there's two different loops that you could potentially grab and one works better than the other, or does it not matter which loop you grab, you just can't pull it too tight? I'm leaning towards the latter. But with the loop going in that direction, the better way, the length of your floss and the amount of slack that you have does become more important. Good to note. You know, I said I'm not gonna look up single-handed French knots, or I guess I should call them double-handed French knots. I don't know what to call them. Said I wasn't gonna look it up, but I was gonna look at the videos, and then I just sat here and struggled for a while without looking at the videos. I finally watched the videos again, and now I know exactly how they did it. And neither of them did a double loop. They both only did one wrap. I've experimented a bit and kind of figured out how to do a double wrap. I don't know about triple. Like every time I tried, it was just a mess. It would make a knot in the end, but the process of making the knot was so knotty that you might as well just do it the old-fashioned way kind of thing. Here is how they did a single-handed knot. It's so easy. I don't think I'm gonna go back. If I'm doing a simple one wrap knot or even a two wrap knot, I think this is the way I'm gonna be doing it from now on. Highly recommend giving it a try. Here's how it's done. You come up through the fabric with your non-dominant hand. Grab the needle with your dominant hand and pull it all the way through. You make the loop in front of you, pointing straight away, but looping towards your non-dominant hand. Or towards the left. Let's say towards the left. You tuck the needle under the loop, right near where it's connecting to the fabric, and pull up. This takes all of your thread away from the fabric itself and makes it really easy to put the needle back in the fabric right next to where you came out like you need to. Now I can go straight back down and stick my needle in the fabric. When it comes to the pulling, you're now starting to pull your needle through with your non-dominant hand underneath. Your fingers just slide up the needle and grab the floss that is in the eye of the needle. That's all you're holding on to. Once you get down to not too much slack left, you can throw your other finger in there and do the shoomp. Now the knot is by the fabric where it needs to be, and then we continue pulling and it's all the way through. That sounded so complicated when I just described it, but it's not. Now to do a double wrap, here's what I was doing. You come up and through like normal. You make that loop to the front, you tuck under and lift up exactly the same, but now instead of just coming down and back in right here, that would be the normal way, I tuck under and go down. I'm gonna do this and go in. And then when I pull this through, I should get a slightly bigger knot. I don't know if this is technically a proper wrap, the way a French knot typically is, but it does make a bigger knot. And that's good enough for me. Bam. I am sufficiently satisfied with that. I figured it out. I figured out 3 different ways to do it. I got pretty smooth with each one. The double wrap thing, I don't know. I don't know if you're just not supposed to do it that way, like it doesn't work, or if I'm just not doing it right. But considering that neither of the videos I saw included a double wrap, they both only did a single wrap, I'm gonna go ahead and say that if the professionals aren't doing it, I'm all good. Have you ever seen this before? Am I the only one that was surprised by this? I can't be. When you've been sitting here for years and years now, like sitting there wrapping each French knot like this, to know that you can just jump with one hand, I don't know, that's awesome to me. And I'm so happy that I just figured out how to do it. Is this the video? Is this it? Maybe. Y'all, this is so incredibly random, but I bought this thing at, I think, an estate sale like months ago, and apparently never opened the bottom drawer because I just now realized it's a music box. How did I not notice that? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That is so much booty nibbling happening over there. A package has been delivered. Oh, dang it, not to me. See, where did I even hear that song? Loud chair. Come to me. Theoretically. So much trotty paws.